when I was 13, I became the youth director of Dr. King's chapter in New York because it was church-based, Southern Christian Leadership Conference. And most of my friends were more Black nationalist oriented. I was church. So my bishop said, if you're gonna get into the movement, go with the preachers. So they made me the youth director of Operation Breadbasket. So I was a protege of Reverend Jesse Jackson, who was 13, 14 years older than me, but I liked him. And after Dr. King got killed that year, there was some divisions as comes about in movements, and Jesse left. So I left and formed my own youth movement. One of the guys that ended up coming to New York to go to school, he wanted to go to law school, was a guy named Teddy Brown, who was James Brown's son. And Teddy got killed a few months later in a car accident. So the disc jockeys in New York, the biggest disc jockey at that time was a guy named Hank Spann on AM radio. FM hadn't taken off yet. And Hank told James Brown, if you want to do something for your son and not have a problem in New York, I know this teenage preacher, your son that joined his youth group, you ought to do a memorial for him, concert for him, and help this kid out. And the reason they did it that way, Mathew, you know the show business, James Brown the year before in 72 had endorsed Richard Nixon for president. So when he came to the Apollo that year, some guys picketed him, say he was a sellout. He wanted to come back to New York and do something and not get picketed. And Hank was telling them, if he did it with me, nobody would bother this kid's youth group. We did the show. I did everything James Brown told me to promote it because I'm looking up this big star gonna help us out. And we sold out both shows. And that started our bonding. James Brown said, oh, I'm gonna take you around, I'm gonna make you big. And he started calling me out on the road, had me give him an award on Soul Train. And over a period of time, he and I became like father and son. By then, my father had left us, and I was looking for a father figure.
I read you once said, what I do functionally is what Dr. King, Reverend Jackson, and the movement are all about. But I learned manhood from James Brown.
That's right. He would take me on the road and he would tell me how to dress, what to do, made me do my hair like his, which is the attention I didn't have from my father. And James Brown became like a father to me. And we would talk personal things. And I always say James Brown was my father, Jesse was my teacher. I learned activism from Jesse, but I have my own style from James Brown. And that's just the way it was.
Well, I tell you what, you're an impeccable dresser, brother. Every time I see you, you're sharp. I mean, very sharp.
That's James Brown's influence. I try to dress like Mathew Knowles since
No, man, I was just going through photos of you, and every photo you were sharp. I said, this brother right here, I tell you. By the way, Reverend Al, I'm older than you. I just want you to know, you're talking to your elder.
Yes,
right
sir.
Here.
Yes, sir. I respect that, sir.